Do you want to feel again? Do you want to explore sensing pleasure through your senses and moving in a way that is free from inhibition and full of self expression? You're on the right place. This is Candia Raquel, and you are at the Sensual Sessions podcast. Make sure to visit my website so you get these episodes delivered on your inbox weekly. It's my name, candiaraquel.com, www.candiaraquel.com. And today we have a very special guest. This is Erica Wiederlight. She's a sex, love, relationships coach, and she also has an amazing podcast. Thank you so much, Erica. I am very excited to have you here.
Oh, thank you. I'm so excited for this juicy, juicy conversation that we're going to have.
Yeah, juicy conversation. So tell us, how did you become aware that there was something missing in your lives in the area of pleasure?
Hmm. I was a traditional life coach. And when I got introduced to the work of sensuality and sexuality, I was very ignorant, thinking, oh, I'll just take this course and it'll be great and great. And I just thought it would inform my work. I didn't think that it would impact me so much that it would become my work. And you said something so profound that for me, when I got stepped into these classrooms and this learning and this education, I noticed, oh my gosh, I can never go back to what and how I was living. So what I experienced in that classroom and in those labs, I was like, I never want to live without this. And I'll say something really quick. I was talking with friends yesterday that do this work with me, and we do the work of sensuality and pleasure and fighting for our pleasure and our aliveness and our radiance. And we said to each other, the mantra is not a drop less. Like we always, and of course, nuance, life happens, right? But it's like we always want to keep up this lifestyle because this life because it's been so life-giving. So for me, it's funny you asked me within the question. It's like, I thought, oh, I'm just going to take a class or I'm just going to get a certification. And I said, I will never go back to life, how I was living before this work.
Yeah, it's like there's a before and after. For me, it was
Yes.
with a very bad back injury that I wanted to power myself through recovery. And
Yeah.
because like I am strong, I am a contemporary and ballet dancer, Pilates master trainer, blah. And I know my body, and I said like, yeah, like this is like piece of cake. And then I just like faced the wall of pain over and over and over, and and it was like I couldn't understand what was happening. Like my ego was like, no, I am stronger than this. Like, yeah, because like also that's our Western indoctrination.
Right.
Until I was feeling so badly that I
Mm.
just curled, finding for the precise angles where I could be in less pain. Almost
Mm.
like when you have a really bad menstrual cramp, or for the essentialist men hearing us, like when you have a really bad toothache, you cannot think about anything else, and you like it's disabling. You cannot do anything. Like it's real. And then like I crawled into this position and just let ah, a huge
Mm.
sigh out of relief, and like sort of simmered in that state, and I discovered it was pleasurable state. And little by little, I tried to like find my way through movement, staying in that embodied state of pleasure, but it was everything so slow for the speed that I was used to.
Right.
And I I really had to re-teach myself how to move.
Mm.
And still up to today, if I want to force myself to do anything, like my back is gonna complain. So definitely there's a before and after. There's a point of no return after you realize that being in touch with your pleasure,
Yeah.
like you say, is life giving.
Yes.
And if the way that you are living your life is not life affirming, it's not nurturing, it has the opposite effect. It's life depleting. It's like somehow making us dry and brittle. And pleasure is such a paradise. So why would we stubbornly stay living in a desert within? But still, it's not easy. It's not
No.
like I really had a hard stop in my life, so I could open to pleasure, so I could allow myself to
Yes.
like to welcome delight. So I want to ask you, what do you notice your clients are struggling the most in this?
Yeah. I think you said it so beautifully. It's, excuse me, for me, when someone comes to me, in the Zoom room before, and they're like, I want pleasure, I want, orgasm. And I'm like, hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on. Before we begin, I need to understand your fears, your objections to pleasure. Like, let's get really clear on that, right? Because it's like, oh, yeah, we could all say, oh, I want to be on a beach and live an orgasmic life. But then when we really look at it, we have a lot of fears around that, and it feels very scary. So for me, having a relationship to understanding our fears, our conditioning is big, so we can kind of clean some of that up. And you made such a beautiful point. Like for me, I've been doing this work for years, years and years and years, right? Like we've been in this work for so long, and I'm very aware of my fears and my objections and my conditioning, and I've worked through a lot of it. And it still comes up, right? Like I teach this stuff regularly and I still have to be like, it's still a practice and it's still a discipline. And I really do feel, and I'm sure you feel this as well, like I'm a devotee of this path because there's so many stories, there's so many reasons why we shouldn't, this is something that we shouldn't focus on. So for me, a lot of my pleasure work is the pre-work, get like reminding myself how valuable this work is. Because even I, who teaches all day long, like forget or, go off of the path. Like I'm like, oh, I don't have to do it today, or oh, like I make excuses. So for me, that's a big part of my practice is continuously in my brain being like, Erica, this is a worthy cause. You've seen this transform your life time and time again. Fight for it. And so I think that's an important part of the conversation is like people often when they hear what I do, they're like, that's so easy. Like, and my teacher always used to say, pleasure is the easiest thing to conceptually understand. However, putting it into practice and embodying it is a whole different set of circumstances, right? It's like people are like, of course I want pleasure, of course I want that. But as we know, actually embodying it and slowing down and being present can be very triggering. And so for me, that's what I love to talk about in this work.
Yeah, slowing down can be very triggering, especially because it means being unproductive, aka
Yes.
wasting time.
Yes, and exactly. And you know the deal. It's like productivity equals worthiness equals, all of the things. I always say there's so many stories I hear, it's disgusting. It's lazy. I'll do pleasure when I lose 10 pounds. I'll do pleasure when I get the job promotion. It's not a worthy cause. So many of us have a blood, sweat, and tears story, right? Like I need to work really hard and then I'll get a treat. Like we all have these different stories, whether it be from society, religion, culture, that taught us about slowing down, being present, and being in pleasure, that we have to decondition. That's a huge part of it.
Yeah, we have to decondition all that programming and embracing adulthood. No,
Yes.
like I remember when I was a little girl and the elders used to come with their nonsense and deny me permission and whatever. And I was, when I grow up, I'm gonna do this and that, and I am not gonna be mean, and I am gonna be smarter and blah, because like I knew the answers. And now that I am finally grown up and with a lot of freedom, like it's almost like a part of us grew into being a horrible adult. Like,
Mm,
like I know I don't want to be like the worst of my mother. Like,
right.
but it's like in which areas we are just like hijacking our our gifts of
Yeah,
adulthood,
right.
and pleasure being at the core of that, because like
Exactly.
now we are the owners of our life, but we are the owners of our life, and we are responsible for ourselves, but at the same time we don't take ownership of
Mhm.
ourselves, and we don't really become responsible of being truly happy and fulfilled. So it's like maybe there's a part in us that stayed small, or that is looking towards, I don't know, a parent figure, a president in the worst case, or whomever you have on the pedestal to give you permission to enjoy yourself. And it's
Yes.
yeah, no.
Right. I say I love that you brought this up because I always say to people, pleasure is such a how do I say, like a such a sobering accountability, buddy, if you will, because in the past, like I would say, things like I was always looking outside of myself to be fulfilled or have permission or validation, whether it's does this guy like me, or am I do my parents approve of me, or whatever, right? Like all of these situations outside of myself. And when I shifted my brain to am I fulfilled, like when I'm living a life full of pleasure, it less becomes about exterior validation and more about am I fulfilled? You know what I mean? So I stopped obsessing like does this person like me, or does this, am I, it's like am I, how am I doing? Like am I fulfilled? Am I taken care of? And for me that was awesome because I stopped putting so much pressure on relationships um where I was demanding their validation because I felt inner validation. Because as we know, it's like, right, like the more pleasure work we do, the more self-love, the more worthiness, all of that began to grow. And I didn't need that from other people. I didn't need to grab that from other people or accolades or experiences. Like I felt personally filled up, which is was huge because I lacked that for many years.
Yes. And the thing is that getting filled by external validation
Right.
will never fully fill you, because you will always be hesitant, like, is this person appreciating me because I did something in order to be appreciated? Or maybe that person wants something from me, or maybe that person is a hypocrite, or even worse, what if that person changed its mind in regards to me or my value? So
Yes.
it's like being in that constant, like, neurotic, paranoid state, and also like being like juggling 25 balls in order to please someone else, that you will never really fully know if that person is gonna be fully pleased,
Yeah.
or if, or even like you can please them, but that doesn't mean they appreciate you or
Mhm.
appreciate you for how and who you are. There are people that only appreciate you because you please them. So it's like I think that it's clear that I am an expert in all of that speculation of people pleasing. And of course, I want to get the validation, and I want people to like me and to think that I am a good person, and pretty and all of that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like cringy
Hmm.
when you see someone in that state looking to get that from you. It's like, uh, uh, guacala, like, go get some self-love. I am not your mother to fill your cup.
Yes, it's true. It's true. It's true. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like, okay, let's have an inner like focus and become curious on what's going on in there
Mm,
in me. Like, how about if I really, really, really ask myself if I am fulfilled?
mhm.
And then it's like, okay, what does that even means?
Right.
So, do I really know myself when I am fulfilled? Like,
Mm,
am I really familiar with my fulfilled state of being, or I am only acquainted with my insecure self and my needy self and the self that didn't knew that was old enough to make herself happy. And it's even like sad.
yeah, yeah. I know. And it's sad too that this is like a side tangent. It's sad too, in addition, that some people will never have this work, right? It's like that is like the biggest crime of all of this, and it's so funny. It's like I'm sure you feel the same way. It's like that's why we're so passionate about this because we've seen it change our life endlessly. I'm like, everyone needs access to, like, this is not just for you and I. This is not just for, a select group of people. This is for everyone. And I want to say too, I feel, often when I bring up pleasure, everyone's like, you do like, what does that even mean? What does that mean? And what does that look like? And like we said, is that a worthy cause? But as we're like starting to have this conversation and peel the layers back, it connects to everything. Like we're talking about like deep self-worth. We're talking about like family patterns and love patterns. And I mean, I say to everyone, it's like, and I'm sure you feel the same way, like a client walks in the door and they think they're walking in, unpacking one thing. And then it's like money comes up and sex and parental trauma. It's like it all pleasure is can really highlight what's happening to us on a emotional, physical, spiritual level. Like really.
Yeah, pleasure can highlight what is going on. Like,
Yeah.
really, truly, because like you cannot hide when you like pop the question, like, am I feeling pleasure? It's like, no, I am not asking myself is if I am worthy. I am
Right.
not asking myself if I am pretty. I am not asking myself if I was I don't know, a proficient professional at work. I am not asking myself if I am guilty. No, no, no. It's like, are you feeling pleasure? And it's like, oh my God, what is pleasure? How does pleasure feels like?
Yeah.
And then it's like something terrible comes up that is like, how come I have been here being myself for decades and I am a stranger to myself?
Mm,
Like, I don't know how does it feels to be fully alive, meaning like in your fullest splendor of delight. And then it's like facing a certain nothingness, and it's, I think that's a breaking point for the ego. And I don't mean the ego like the ego of Michael Jackson or the ego of Madonna. No, no, no. I mean the ego of that self-identity of unworthiness and smallness, like the distorted image that you have about yourself, that sometimes is just like something that you interiorized from what people around you told you about yourself and society and whatever, and you never got like curious enough
Yeah.
or the little time and space to see like, okay, what there is it
Mm,
me. So pleasure, like it's like it's glorious, and the lack of it is revealing.
mm. Yeah, and I think you said something so beautiful is that for me, and I try not to use it, I always say this with all of my work and all the tools. I always say to my clients, we never want to use these tools as weapons against ourselves, right? We never want to make ourselves wrong and harm ourselves with these tools. But in a healthy way, to the best of my ability, what you were just speaking of, I try to use that as inspiration. Like when I fall, because as we do, right? Like we fall away from pleasure. I mean, I have gaps of my life where and we're cyclical, so there's seasons of crazy pleasure, and then I was in a winter of pleasure, and then I was in a fall, right? Like it all different seasons. But when I know I'm like avoiding pleasure or like there's something coming up, I, like you said, remind myself like I don't want to go a year or 2 years or a decade. Like, I don't want to go into that again. Like, I don't want to go into the void again. I don't want to wake up and be like, what just happened? I just wasn't present for 5 years, and not to reach perfection, whatever that is, quote unquote, perfection. But I try to use that in a healthy way of, hey, Erica, come back. Like try to gently guide myself back of like, I really, even though I'm triggered, even though I want to avoid it, at the core, I really do want to live a life that's full. And I always say this, like, I don't want to die with the music inside of me. Like I want to make sure, right? Like I want to make sure that like I lived every texture, every note, like I want that for myself.
Yeah, I want that for myself as well, and
Right?
for all the sensualists here,
Yeah.
because it's also needed, like
Yeah.
like being living your life fully is one of the greatest things that you can offer, especially to other women, that is like a permission slip in something that we don't and never had and never will need permission to, but we have been indoctrinated into believing that we don't know all our bodies, and we don't have any right to fully take pleasure by our own pleasure, by our own hand. And we have been made to believe that pleasure should be provided to us from exterior sources, aka a lover, a man, your husband in another times, and mostly products like an
Yes.
expensive bag, a designer sweater, blah blah blah,
Mhm.
that means acquiring symbols, external symbols of approval. Like you don't need that. And pleasure is actually cheap.
Right, right. It's so true. It's so true. Yeah, I always, I use this example when I first started this work. I was so hungry, and a little confused, right? Like I didn't know where to start, and so I jumped into external pleasure, like and it's okay, I forgive myself, but eating too much, like, because I was so hungry, like, because I was shut off for so long. So eating too much, shopping too much, and I mistaken, whatever, that for pleasure, right? Because I think I was repressing myself for so long. So I was like eating so much and going out so much because I think I was like, oh, this is aliveness. And that's okay. Like I had to go through that period. But what I realized is, oh, what I'm really chasing is free. You know what I mean? Like what I'm really desiring is peace and is actually free if I so choose, and I get pleasure from eating an orgasmic meal, wonderful. Or if I have the resources to indulge in a spa and that would feel really delicious, great. But like you said, I then became to realize like it's not these external pleasures. We can if we so choose, here and there, but it really is like you said, it's very cheap and and what the beautiful part about this is it's accessible anytime.
Yeah, it's accessible and in the
Yes.
time, the reach of your fingertips and every cell and every breath because it's exquisite to breathe. And yeah, and it's like great to use any experience in our life to get acquainted with pleasure. Like, okay,
Yeah.
I'm eating a lot, but that is giving me some kind of pleasure. And I'm going shopping, and there's like this thrill, and there's movement, and there's like freedom, and there's choosing, and the clothes, and trying things, and looking at yourself in a different way. So it's like, okay, I I am in this dynamic that is bringing me these experiences that are pleasurable, and then like it's like an opening to
Mm,
experience something that is here. And also I think that happens also with sex and relationships. Sometimes we default into our consumistic self, and we want to consume the other person, and we want a lot of stuff to get into the fleshly experience of pleasure. But then I think the key is to allow ourselves that little space needed for really getting in touch with what's going on. It's like, okay, I am having a steak and I am really chewing on the meat, and I'm really experiencing the swallowing of the piece of the meat of an animal. And it's a merging. There's a becoming one with the other.
yeah.
It can be because I think consuming stuff, it's like an entry to pleasure. If you take the time to
Yes.
savor it and delight, and also with the beloved, like, okay, I am becoming one with this person or bunch of people if you like, but you are experiencing on a fleshly way, not just on a compulsory
Yeah.
way. And I feel this is very challenging to like calm down so you get to feel something.
Yes. And I think you made like a really good point. Oh my God, you made so many good points because slowing down to feel something can sometimes be triggering, right? Because it's like, what if I feel something else? Or what if I do feel pleasure? And I think you mentioned something really beautiful. Often we haven't been in spaces where we've been in pleasure in front of other people. And so that could be scary. Like I've done this work for years and years and years, right? And my husband is a very supportive, amazing person. And he knows my work. But I remember the first, few months of getting to know each other, if it, and not even sexually, even enjoying a meal or slowing down, or I have my feather here, even just like, like that felt very vulnerable because for me, it felt I would be in trouble or I would be, it's not allowed. I'm not allowed to be in my pleasure. It's unsafe and it triggers people. And I was actually talking to a woman a few weeks ago, and she said she learned that through food. So it's funny you bring up the steak. Like she, as a kid, would eat food and be like, this is so good. Oh, this is so delicious. And just expressing her like gratitude and her delight. And her parents really were like, that's disgusting. That's inappropriate. You don't make like you cut that out. And for her, it taught her like, oh, it's not safe for me to be in any type of pleasure in front of other people, and even with myself, but in front of other people because it's unsafe. It triggers them. It's gross. It's disgusting. It's not, quote unquote, ladylike or whatever, fill in the blanks. But I think you bring up such a good point, and it's something that should be mentioned. It's like the safety piece of this, of like, the more we do it, the more we, feel safe to express pleasure in front of others, whether it's enjoying the steak, slowing down to enjoy the steak, or, really listening to the jazz music at a cafe. And I'm sure you've experienced this as well. Like when we do it, it gives permission for others. They're like, oh, thank God, like I don't have to rush through, or like they also can feel that safety, that permission, and then they can relax and revel in their own experience.
Yeah, then they can revel in their own experience because it's definitely a rebel act to
Yes.
ownership. Like, okay, we have lived in a culture that said that everything else was the owner of our own experiences, and
Yeah.
it's like, no, I am like my parents are no longer the authority in my life. Now I am the one who actually authorizes myself to express that pleasure when I am eating, like savoring and really smelling and cutting through the meal, and like, okay, the right thing to do is what I say is right, and also it's like I am in control
Yeah.
all times, and I know that I am safe because I am making sure that I am
Yes.
safe. So, yeah, that's a huge part, like addressing the fear head on,
Right.
and like, okay, you know, something huge is not being afraid of being afraid,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because also we have like, at least to me, like if you're afraid, you're a chicken or a coward or whatever, and it's like, no, 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 like acknowledging fear and like acting on it, even if the decision is, what I'm gonna do is do nothing, meaning
Yeah.
I'm not gonna engage in this scary situation because it's scary for me, is actually an act of courage.
Yeah.
And in order
Absolutely.
to be courageous, you need to have like that basic awareness. And it's also like, oof, yeah, like growing up to our true essence in a way, like cleaning ourselves from all that
Yeah.
conditioning or the things that we misunderstood in our own detriment,
Right.
and reclaiming delight.
Yes. Yeah. I love that. And I think, oh my God, I love that so much. I love this work. It's so good. It's just we're so good. It's what a blessing that we get to do this. But I love what you said because like you said, it takes ownership. And I think it is a very rebellious cause. There's, as we are slowly talking about, like there's a lot of reasons why we can choose not to do this work. So it takes a lot of courage and it's okay to be scared. Um, again, because we were taught that this is wrong and an unworthy cause, so of course we're going to be scared. But I love what you said, that like that's so actually badass that we can note, like, I'm scared and I'm doing it anyway, or I'm scared and I'm gonna try, like that courage piece. I think the courage piece is a huge part of the pleasure journey too, of like just taking the jump. I know for me, again, right, was doing this work for years and then I had a slump, which is normal. But I was upset. I was so in my head, which is like the opposite of this work, but I was so obsessed with getting back to pleasure, getting back to pleasure, getting back to pleasure. Like I was always thinking about that. And for me, I missed the courage. Like I just needed to do it, or I just needed to live it instead of, excuse me talking about it and thinking about it and pleasure, pleasure, pleasure. It's like I finally got the courage to just take the step to live it, to feel it, and to be it. Because like so much of what we're talking about is, it's so funny, people like, spiritual pleasures, unnecessary. And for me, I'm sure you agree, I'm like, it's a deeply profound spiritual experience. I'm like, this is like, being mindful, being, thought, putting our ego in check. Like there's so many spiritual principles to living a pleasure filled life. Like for me, I'm a yogi. Yoga is part of my daily life and something I'm passionate about on the side. And there's a lot of parallels. Of course, there's some things that clash, right? But there's a lot of parallels to being present and breathing and trusting. Like there's a lot of, what's so interesting is I'm like, this is a deeply spiritual and profound path for us to take on. So it is courageous, it is scary, and it's worth it's worth taking those steps.
Yeah, it's worth taking those steps
Yeah.
to sense pleasure, because it's like an unfiltered, raw, naked experience of reality here now. Like there's no room for preconceptions. Like they pop up, but
Yeah.
they are not the thing. So it's like daring. Pleasure is it's about daring to be, because
Hmm.
you cannot fabricate pleasure. Yeah, you can do as you fake it, but if you fake it, it won't happen. You create the context, and pleasure happens if it wants. So it's also like being courageous on one hand, and on the other hand being humble enough. It's almost like
Yes.
as if pleasure was a gift from your flesh,
Yeah.
because you can think at will. Even you can even like calm your thinking at will,
Mm.
like maybe even silence your thinking, so you can control a lot of things in our life. But pleasure, actually, that's what makes pleasure also so scary, because it's like all over the place. It's like
Yes. Yes.
uncontrollable.
That's so true. That is so funny. That's that is so true. That is so funny because I always think about it, and when I think back to like pleasurable, things in my life, and I think when we talk about pleasure, we think about, maybe the pink feather. Oh, it's gonna look like this, and whoa, it could be a wild, wild experience. And I'll say this little side story. I used to live in New York City, and I would do this work with a lot of people, and we would do this thing called pleasure. Well, we do a few things, but one would be like a pleasure day, and we would meet in the middle of Manhattan and it'd be like, let's follow our pleasure. And it's like, oh, like, and so why I bring that up, it's like, it shocked us. You know what I mean? Because I would think, oh, it's going to be gentle and the spot. No, like sometimes it would be outrageous. And I think you bring up such a beautiful, beautiful point that often we think pleasure, whether it's the pink boa or the red lipstick and the lingerie, that could be part of it. I love those parts. Like to me, I'm like, oh, like I geek out about that. I'm like, that's so fun. But you made such a good point. Like I could have never truly never in my wildest dreams created the stuff that has happened, that I've experienced, that I lived if I just was in my brain. Like, I'm going to have pleasure. It's like because I was authentically in the moment and following that path, things have happened that I couldn't have. Sometimes I'm like, did that really happen? Like, is that a dream? And I think like, I laugh at that so wholeheartedly because I'm like, that's so true. Like, that's such a true point, and what a gift of life that like sometimes we can't control everything and make it perfect and this is going to be my like that's a gift of pleasure. It's like a a wild woman wild person path. Like it unravels as it should, and like what a gift that is.
Yeah, and there's no like pleasure experience that can be replicated, or you can
Yes.
try, you know what you like,
Right.
but still it's like such a moment to moment
Mm.
thing, and it's very easy to get greedy and want
Yeah.
more pleasure, and like there's a true spiritual wisdom to
Mm.
be a essentialist, because it's like food. You can only eat so much before you get bloated, and the like you can keep on stuffing yourself, but the curve of pleasure is gonna diminish and even
Yep.
like sink worse if you've, or at least when I have forced myself to overeat Roman style, like yes, but like okay, yeah, you can have another serving, you can have another cookie, you can have another drink, but there's a moment where pleasure stops circulating. Because
Yeah.
for example, drinking. Like there's a moment when you are tipsy on a happy, perfect state, and it's like, yay. And then like you start to fade back to normal. And that fading back, it's like losing the tipsy happy state, but it's like okay, and normalness is also good. But if you go beyond the threshold, like you're gonna get drunk, wasted, and wake up with a terrible hangover and waste a full day. And the same with over. So it's a very, very, very thin line
Yeah.
that marks the difference of pleasure and addiction. And,
Hmm.
and that thin line, I think, is the line between life and death. Because if you don't have the sensitivity of moving with the pleasure moment by moment and how it changes as every moment changes, then you default into like an egoic state of trying to grasp to solidity. I want to be in I want to be fixed in this state, and I don't want it to go away. And I want to stay in this state of romance and love and like honeymoon phase with my beloved, and I don't want this to change. And I want the chocolate, the first bite of chocolate cake, and it will ruin everything.
Yeah, you're so right. And you said something like too that with like the spirituality piece, it's like part of surrender and okay with change. Because like you said, with me being obsessed for those months after that I quote unquote fell or got out of I was obsessed. Like I was like, it had my pleasure used to look like this in New York City, and I have to recreate that. And what a sin, because I actually was missing out on all this other, like I was so obsessed with that I was missing out on life. And you said something so profound with the addiction. I think for me too, my relationship with food has, like I said, has always been, could have been toxic. And pleasure has been a very helpful, I have to be mindful, right? But like helpful thing where it's like, okay. Like I gotta reel it in. And um I wanted to say something that you said so good about that fine line, but also being willing, like you said, to be taken on the next journey, to be taken on the next breath. Like, oh my gosh, that chocolate was delicious, but like I'm gonna trust and I'm gonna surrender the next moment. Like I'm gonna trust that I can get off of this. I think too, it's sometimes when I'm very pleasure deprived and I have that beautiful moment, I'm like scared to get off of it. Because it's like, will I recreate this? Will I, like what will happen? And right? Like it's like there could be so much more available to us. And like I said, for many years I was obsessed because I really was at that like height pleasure. I was obsessed with recreating that and I missed out on so much of another life that was available for me.
Yeah, yeah. Like moving through the shapes and intensities of pleasure and fine-tuning our sensitivity for the nuances. I feel that you just help me unlock or heal. I am close to crying because I feel always like a sense of loss when I have finished eating my slice of pizza or
Yeah.
the second slice, and I know I have the rest of the pizza. And like many times I go for the whole pizza. So just a little context. Officially, I don't have an eating disorder because I asked my psychologist back in the day and he told me, no, you don't have, he told me in Spanish, no tienes un desorden alimenticio, tienes un desmadre alimenticio. So desmadre is a way to say you have a fucking mess. So it's not a disorder, but it's a real mess. So I don't have a clinical thing. Not that it was neither good or bad if I had it, but it's been something recurrent in my life, and it has to do with my relation to pleasure in general,
Yeah.
to the experience of pleasure and the desirous part in me that always wants more, but there's like there has been like a mismatch between my journey and the gifts
Mm.
of life and the prayers that have been answered and my like the dial between the receiving and the wanting. Like I want, but how much can I receive what it's being
Yes.
offered? So the thing is that I feel almost like I need to enter a state of grief after the first or second slice of pizza or whatever experience that I am enjoying, because I know that it's ended, and
Mm.
that if I get stubborn to get another serving, it won't taste as good as the first one,
Mhm.
and I will actually like the second frothy frappuccino from the Starbucks. It's gonna sit all day there, and I am like it will diminish my pleasure. So it's like, or for example, like you want more and your beloved is super, I was to say dead, but no, sleeping. After the third round or fourth, it's like kind of selfish to say like, hey, can you recover quickly? It's like knowing, I think the key is in surrender. And because I can relate with being a wild woman in my desirousness and my rare raptureness and my devouring, like taking in the experience, like surrendering into the rush that's easy for me,
Yeah.
but the surrendering into the fading out and fading away from the climax,
Yes.
it really feels like dying.
That's so profound because we don't talk about that a lot.
No, we don't talk
We don't,
about. I am just
right.
talking it right here for the first time.
Right. And it's also like, it is like, because it's like dying. And then also, I think there needs to be trust.
Trust. Yeah, that's.
Right.
Thank you.
Right. Because I
I
think,
am healed.
yeah. But trust that, like, okay, I'm backing away from this. Like, I trust I will have another pleasurable experience again. I will taste another thing, pleasurable. It's like, but it feels very, it feels very intense. Like I'm never gonna I have to hold on to this, and I see my clients doing it and myself doing it in certain ways, whether it's with food or whether it's social media or reading or anything. It's like, I call it sometimes, especially with social media, like revenge pleasure. It's because we could be so this is a little bit different, right? But we could be so hungry that it's like it's to a detriment. It's us hurting ourselves because we're like, I'm not gonna get another hit, right? Like I had a client that at night he'd work all day and be so depleted and he'd be on TikTok for hours and hours and hours and hours. And he's like, I'm just scared to get off. Because that, even though it's hurting me, that at one point was my joy and that was my dopamine hit. And so now I'm scared, like we talked about, like the death, like I'm scared to get off. And so it's like creating that trust of like, okay, I'm going to back off. Like I trust that I'm going to find another pleasurable moment. I'm going to find another peace. I'm going to find peace again. But the trust and surrender is a big part of this conversation.
Yeah, because it pertains to survival. Because
Yes.
pleasure is a life. It's the life energy, like the libido, the sensuality, this brimming life thing that has both the components of desire and the welcoming of the wish fulfilled, that is the pleasure and the satisfaction. But it, yeah, like it can be like super scary to feel, to believe that like that's your chance, and when it ends, it's like a part of you, and maybe a part of you actually ends, but it's okay. It's like the who you were at that moment, and
Mm,
now you're becoming the new you in this new moment that emerges in this dance of eternal change. And I had a scavenger cat that I rescued, and every time I feed the cat would like rawr, eat everything in his plate, and I would like serve him like 3 times, and then I bought a dog plate, so I could only
mm.
serve him 1 time, and he ate his way to get almost like a coma. And then I understood, like, even though he had already been living with me like for 4 years, he hadn't realized that he was not a scavenger cat anymore, that he was
Mm.
a loved cat at a safe place, and that there would always be food for
Yeah.
him. Because in his mind, he always ate everything that was available,
Mm.
afraid of that being his last meal in maybe a week.
Right.
And that's where trust comes into, like trusting that, okay, it's like a train or like a taxi. Okay, I am getting off taxi because now, like, I am in another moment of the journey. So
Mm.
I had a pleasure journey inside the cab. I have to get out and do the thing at another place, come out and get another taxi. Like your travel already ended, like you arrived to the location that you put in the Uber. Now you have to get out. Like you
Yes.
finish the pizza, get out and do the next pleasurable thing, the next pleasurable activity, and trust that the rest of the slices of the pizza will be there in 5 hours
Yeah.
and just
Yes.
continue eating. But at
Yeah.
the root is that scavenger cat syndrome, at least for me, that, oh no, I am not gonna have this. Instead of like, so instead of also being wild in surrendering
Mm.
to the trust that there will always be more.
Yes. Yeah, and I feel like that's like the trust piece. Oh my God, this is such a good conversation. The trust piece is so deep because it's trust, whether it's the universe, whatever you want to believe, right? Like whatever that, there's trust that there's more in the world for you. And also there's an internal trust that like I will keep coming back to this practice, right? Like I trust that like okay, I'm getting out of the cab, but I trust myself. I will get in another cab eventually. I think it's like such a beautiful analogy that you said because it's like, have you ever heard of the example I'm gonna butcher it, but they said something like, if you're on a train, like get off at the appropriate stop, right? But if you keep going and you keep going, the longer you're on the train, the more expensive it gets. Like we talked about the pizza, like the first two slices satiated, but we keep going, it's like it actually starts to add detriment to ourselves. That's like staying on the train too long. And it's the same with the cab example. It's like we got to get out of the cab, and there is going to be a moment of but we need that. Like we need that breath. We need that bridge for the next pleasure moment. So I think you said something so profound. It's like we need to recognize we do need that bridge. Even though it's scary getting out of the cab because it's like there was so much fun in this cab. Like, should we keep it going? Like, okay, that was a fabulous moment. I trust I got to get out of the cab to find a new one. Like that is just as supportive. That is what creates the safety for the next pleasure experience. That's so beautiful. And I really briefly I want to bring up that like it's scarcity, right? Because it's like we're scared. It's scarcity. We're scared. It's like, will it happen again? I talk a lot with my clients too that when they first start this work, it's like they're hungry, so they're scared to get out of the cab. They're scared to get off the train because it's like, will this be again? But I think this is such a beautiful, beautiful conversation for longevity employ like this is not just like oh get your nails done or whatever those like we're talking about like deep peaceful longevity with this work. This was oh my God, this is amazing. This is such a healing conversation.
Yeah, deeply, deeply. I am very happy. So
Same.
yeah, longevity, like
Yeah.
also understanding that there are different pleasure stations in our life.
Mm,
It's not the same pleasure that we have now at our age,
yes.
fully grown woman that we do what we want,
Yeah.
whether they like it or not.
Yes.
In contrast to our uninformed teenage selves, still in the house of our parents,
Right.
enlightened parents, that the life of a woman on her 70s. And it's like there's a pleasure journey.
Yes.
And the thing is that it's a wild ride, but the goal in this is the awareness to wilderness. For example, when you see a jaguar walking, you can sense the like the raptures, this feline ability to run at a super speed, and like they are very potent, but they are not stupid.
Right. Right.
It's like while it's like sensing, being aware of what's going on in you and in the changing environment. Like for a panther, everything is changing all of the time. They are attuned of the temperature changing, of the rain coming, of the seasons, of their preys, of their cubs. and everything. So it's like a way of living life.
Mm. And you mentioned, so glad you mentioned that example. Like it's a way of life. It's a lifestyle. And I think you said something so beautiful. I compare myself, and my clients have often compared themselves to other versions, but I was so ba 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 ba. It's like that's beautiful. That's such a blessing. And pleasure is a relationship. It's a lifestyle, like you said. It's even though I had such a great time in my 20s living in New York City and going to sensual embodiment classes, and that was fabulous. I'm in a different seat. That still could happen, but I'm in a different season now. And so I think making peace with, oh, I'm in a different season. How exciting that it's not a bad thing. It's, oh my gosh, I thought that was exciting. Let me be open to this new journey. And like you said, it's like that lifestyle, that embodiment, that devotion. This is a lifelong practice, but it's a lifelong practice. But how lucky are we that we choose to live this life? Because it's beyond our wildest dreams.
Yes, yes. To have a body and know we have a body, that we are a body, and fully experience our pleasure capacities.
Yes.
Yes, yes. Would you share with us a little something, a little exercise?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. I'm like, that was so good. So I would love, I'll give you this one because I think this one is really great, is to just start to check in more regularly and this was such a beautiful conversation because I even got to check in with myself, like, where am I? Am I comfortable with how I'm sitting? Like we said, it doesn't have to be outrageous things outside of us. It's internal. So this tool, what I'd love for us to do is I call it like a pleasure dial or a pleasure spectrum. And so what I'd love for us to do is, whether you want to set an alarm or just check in with yourself regularly, is I want us to check in, and on a scale, actually I call it pleasure scale. I forgot the word for there for a second. Pleasure scale. Uh how am I feeling? Like, first and foremost, like, where am I? Am I breathing? Do I feel the sensations in my body? Like, where am I? So I just want to like take a hello, check in. How am I? Where am I? And then like a scale, am I feeling crusty? And I mean like contracted and or am I feeling turned on? And what I mean by turned on is like a light switch. Like we said, we're just in pleasure or we're in flow or we're at peace. Like the light switch is on. We're there and we're doing it. If we are crunchy or wherever we are, I want us to ask ourselves, okay, how in this moment do I make this more pleasurable? And so it doesn't have to be a 10, if we're like, I don't have capacity to go to a 10. Like, I just want us to go beep, beep, like up two notches or up a notch. And it's like, I still have this deadline. I have to get this newsletter out by a certain time. Okay, we still will do that. But is it maybe rolling your shoulders back and taking a deep breath and having a sip of water or doing a hip circle, whatever, right? It's like within the moment, how can we add more pleasure? And so for me, I love that tool because I think it allows us to check in, like, where am I right now? And how can I add more pleasure? I think that's a great uh start. And for me, I always like to tap into that tool. Like, and it's great because it's like we do a million things through the day. So sometimes I'm watching TV, how can I add more pleasure? Sometimes I'm working with a client, how can I add more pleasure? Maybe it's I'm going to sit back on my seat, or I'm going to roll my shoulders, or I'm going to take a sip of water. But it gets us really good checking in with our body, our needs, and adding a little bit more of that flow.
Yeah, I am loving the pleasure scale because it's benevolent. It's not
Mm.
like an imposition. Like, no, now you have to feel hot. Like,
Right.
or like I have
Right.
like a project management tool that is packed with that things to do, and on top of that, I'm gonna have to feel juicy. It doesn't
Yeah.
work that
Right.
way, but being aware of just checking in feels like a best friend checking in
Mm.
with your very bad flu or your
Yes.
fractured toe or whatever. It's like, yeah, how am I feeling? And just popping the question is like, it feels like telling myself I love myself. I love,
Yes.
yeah, it's like, okay, like, yeah, I have my back. I have myself.
Yeah.
And being like really your, not even your best friend, like really practicing self-love. And again, the question is like, am I feeling pleasure? It's not, are you deserving of pleasure? Like,
Mm.
have you finished your quarterly tax tasks? Or no, no, no,
Right.
it has nothing to do with worthiness and all that stuff. It's like straight to your fleshly being, to your animal
Mm.
sensual self.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, you don't need to get to a 10 in the pleasure scale. Like, just what can you do to feel just one notch or two notches
Yeah.
better? Like, okay, a sip of water. Okay, relaxing. Maybe taking some perspective. And it's like being in communication with yourself in a fleshly way and gardening your your inner paradise of delight. Is like watering yourself and like, okay, the roses here are like kind of drying up. Okay, good that I found out, and maybe I can make time to tend to that. Or like, what's going on? Why are you feeling like that? And it's not like a duty. It's like, yeah, it's like attending and like a very gentle and real
Mm.
practice,
Yes.
building on being a sensualist,
Yeah.
having a lifestyle of sensuality, being a pleasure devotee. And it's not like I am because I say so, or that's my identity, or I claim it black. No, it's because that's the aspect of your, that's an aspect of your infinite self that you are tending to and cultivating. And I am loving it. Thank you so much, Erica.
Thank you.
Yeah, love having you here at
This
this.
was amazing.
Yeah, thank
So deep too. Like I'm so
you.
grateful that we got to get
Yeah,
into
yeah,
it.
yeah. For me, and I hope for the sensualists here, to great, great episode. I'm really grateful.
Thank you so much. Same. Thank you.
So tell us, how can we learn more about what you're doing?
Yeah. Yeah. So as we talked about actually in this episode, I'm like, everyone needs this work, right? Like I really am a firm believer. Yeah, I'm like, spread the message. So I'm really about spreading the message and having accessibility. So for me, that looks like a lot of free tools. Because I want people to have, maybe they're like, I don't know if I want to work with you, but I want the book, I give them a lot of options. And so for me, what that looks like, and all of these free resources are hosted on my website, which is wethelight.org. Um, I have a blog, of course, so a weekly blog with different, different fun things, different tools like we talked about today. I have a podcast, which is called Welcome to the Wiederlife, similar to that blog. And then I have a ebook, and it's called From Perfectionist to Pleasure Expert. And it's a super short book. I think it's under 50 pages, but it's tools, technology, how we could start to integrate pleasure ASAP. And I always encourage people get those resources, get those free resources. In addition, what I like to do every month, it depends on my calendar, but every month, what I like to do is I go into my calendar, I open a very small handful of spots, and then I close them. And what those spots are are they're 60-minute sessions, totally free. And I always say, seriously, no strings attached. It's a 60-minute coaching session. We get to talk about pleasure, sex, dating, whatever feels good. It's a coaching session, right? So we'll use tools, embodiment tools, all of the goodness. And at the end of the session, if it comes up, great. If you're like, I feel complete, send me send me homework and this fabulous. Like you got that resource. If you do want to discuss working together, we can. Sometimes people are like, I really love you, but I want to work with a male in his 70s. I'm like, great, let me give you a resource. So for me, I always say, really, no strings attached. come in there, get that free session. I only have a fee a month, and then I close the doors. It's a free session because I really believe this work needs to be in the hands of everyone. And then if we're in alignment to work together, fabulous. If we're not, that's fabulous too. So I say to people, get those resources because I don't know how long I'll be, keeping those resources available. So that is wethelight.org for a free session, blog, podcast, ebook, all the goodness. And so I'm so grateful.
And you're at social media too?
Yes, I'm on Instagram and my handle's at wethelight_LLC.
Yes. Fantastic. Thank you,
Yay.
Erica.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
And thank you, Essentialist, for being here. So go follow Erica on Instagram and go to her website, wethelight.org. Get her book a free one-on-one session. Make sure to be in tune to when the doors open for that. And also follow her podcast that is Welcome to the Wiederlife, and she's Erica Wiederlight, so it's like Wither Life. Yeah. And also, if you haven't already, go grab the free guide to awaken sensuality at my website, candiaraquel.com, which is my name, www.candiaraquel.com. Until next time, remember to take the time to sense your fire so you can share the flame.